Hello, hello. Chainsaw Man chapter 193 came out today, and let's go over it. The chapter is overall pretty short. It's a pretty heavy on action chapter, but in a different kind of way. So the chapter picks up right where the last one left off with Asa, or in this case Yoru, twerking on Denji as she comments on how pathetic he is. Um, she then reaches back and kisses him on the cheek as she's telling him how sad it is that despite knowing that she's going to turn him into a weapon, he's still so obedient to her. Uh, da, da, da. Yoru reveals that Asa likes him, and because they share the same brain, she does as well, which leads Denji to start crying, because he's happy that someone likes him. Yoru kisses him again, this time on the mouth, a bit, more intense. There's a bit of tongue and a bit of lip biting. Uh, And then she gives Denji the ultimatum, which is if he beats the Death Devil, she will bang with him. And if he doesn't, she will turn him into a weapon and then beat the Death Devil herself. And that's where the chapter ends. So, very fast chapter. Not really sure how much there is to discuss off of this. I guess, there's the obvious parallel to Makima's deal with Denji. She was also straddling him. She came very close to kissing him, and then she gave him an offer in less explicit terms. I guess if you have to really dig deep at the English class narrative, whatever, you can maybe say that in Makima and Denji's case, Makima has the high ground. She has the upper level. She's sitting on the chair, whereas Denji is lying off his back. So a clear power dynamic here, whereas in Yoru and Denji's case, they are sitting in the same chair, and their heads are at the same height, signifying that they might be equals, although in this case, not really showing it in terms of what she is saying to Denji. Yeah, that's about all the analysis I can really come up with. Uh, well, also this chapter is titled Burning Kiss because Denji and Yoru are kissing as the world is on fire. And there is a bit of emphasis on the fiery background as this is going on. So Fujimoto is kind of bringing us attention to fire. And last chapter, Denji asked about the fire devil. So I do feel that we might be seeing the fire devil pretty soon at maybe the next 10 chapters. And we might get a confirmation as to if Akoku has anything to do with the fire devil, because he looks a lot like Agni from Fire Punch. I guess the rest is maybe on Denji's development. Some people are not happy because this is a bit of a rerun of Denji from part 1, but a bit worse in that this time he is going along with it because he has no one in his life except for Yoru and Asa. Whereas in part 1, there were more possibilities open to him. Even though he was also being knowingly manipulated. Although maybe not knowing the extent of that part. But anyways, there are some growing discussion on if this is if this type of storytelling is like good or not. And I don't know. We'll see. But there's two ways next chapter could go. One, which I think is more likely to happen, is that Denji just goes with Yoru's proposition and then, he fights the Death Devil, probably loses, and then gets turned into a chainsaw, or he disobeys Yoru, goes off on his own, because earlier in part two, he did say that he want to start being more independent. Uh, Again, I think that's the less likely to happen one, because at this point, he really doesn't have anyone else to go to. But with that being said, if he does take up on Yoru's offer, he's not really going to get to, I guess, like take on the Death Devil, because right now they are still a few months away from the Death Devil's arrival, because the Death Devil is supposed to come at July. And right now it should be maybe like January, February at the most, because when Baron started the Chainsaw Apocalypse, that was December. December or January, because he did say like half a year from now. So probably January. And then right after that, Denji was captured by the public safety. He was in a coma, cut to pieces for like a week. And then broken out by Asa and Fami. So at most, maybe like a month has passed since then. Maybe like we're in February. So even if he decides to go fight the Death Devil, I don't know what is going to happen between like now to July. Maybe there's going to be another small time skip. I don't know. But yeah, the last time with Makima, he didn't really get to fulfill his promise, his part of killing the Gun Devil. So presumably this time around, he also won't get to finish the Death Devil. Well, I guess he did technically kill the Aki gun, but I don't know if it didn't really count, because the story was like immediately went to Pochita, the whole Makima Control Devil shit. Yeah, so quick chapter to go over. Not really any meaningful analysis I feel I can do here. Let me see. Comments. Let's see. I need to switch tabs better. I love that empty chair when Yoru says Asa likes him. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a good point. Well, let me pull up the full panel. I don't remember if like there was a close up to the chair, because if there was, that's a really good narrative device. In that kind of it's like half chair. So it's a good way to remind the audience that Asa exists also, even though she hasn't talked in a couple of chapters. That's a good point. So from a framing sense, what's a movie term? Like I'm not the biggest movie guy, but from like a paneling framing device, that's a good point. Let's see. I think this one is where you gotta wait for the Denji reaction on if he's going to agree or recognize the Makima callback. Yeah, I mean, even in part one, he does like recognize that he was being actively manipulated, right? Because when he fought Reze, he kind of says that he told her, or he tells either her or Aki that every woman he meets tries to kill him. And he's like thinking of Makima during that line as well. So he knew that Makima was using him, but he was just going along with it because of the potential reward. So I think he recognizes it this time as well, but it's just a matter of if he's going to do anything about it. The fire tells me all the devils Denji must fight to get to the death devil. The fire might be a metaphor that they are at the end of the world since Yoru can't see past the fire. Yes, I mean there is a possibility that like the end of the world would just come even before July. Because even in part one, Fujimoto kind of plays with the promised timeline a bit, like when Aki is supposed to die in 2 years, but he kind of just like moved it up by many years. So, let's see. Yoru was dumbed down direct version of Makima. All the innuendos Makima did are thrown out the window. Yoru is basically telling him what he wants. Yeah, Yoru is definitely a lot less subtle about the whole thing, whereas Makima is kind of playing it at least a bit PG-13. Ba ba ba. Let's see. Asa gonna stop Yoru. Fire definitely the end of the world. Like the world is literally burning around them. The one thing that caught my attention is how much clothes they were using in part one. It felt more civilized. In part two, it feels more desperate and more animalistic. Yeah, that's a good point. Denji has been in his dirty tank top for like 30 chapters at this point. And the tank top is also kind of how he sees himself in his childhood visions. Like the child version of him is also in a dirty white tank top. So I think that's a good point in that it's like a visual metaphor for how Denji's current state is like a lost child in a way. But yeah, let's see. Let's see, where are we? Especially with that dream that she kept having. Why would she let Yoru destroy not only her life, but the world more than she already has? Yeah. We haven't. The last we saw Asa was, I actually don't remember. I think it's like right before they break out of the Aging Devil's world. She really hasn't thought much of it. We don't see like what she think of what Yoru was doing since then. So I don't know how much like power she can use to break free of Yoru at this point. Because last time she broke out of Yoru, I guess she was afraid of Yoru, and maybe now that she's not breaking free from Yoru, that implies that she's no longer afraid of her. I don't know. This double personality thing is not my favorite thing to do, like reading on. Let's see. On the Makima versus Yoru comparison, the restaurant was also underground, another way to tell that they are in hell. Well, this restaurant, I don't know if you're talking about the previous restaurant, but this restaurant should be above ground, I think. At first I thought it was the ramen restaurant that Himeno died in, but then I went back to look at the chapter and it's probably not. It's hard to tell because Aki destroyed the roof of the restaurant, so if they remodeled, it could be, but there's really nothing to support that. Asa is so hot. Yes, But I feel like the current art style doesn't really reflect that as much because from like having to look at earlier chapters a lot because of making videos. There's a really big difference between like the art style of early part two and now. Yeah. But with that being said, I do feel that part one's art style wasn't as good as like early part two as well. But let's see. Do I think the heart transplant plan is still gonna happen? Uh, well, the thing is, I don't feel like the heart transplant was ever a serious plan by Fami. She was just lying to Asa to get her to, do what she wants. Because when, like, 20 chapters later, she had Barum turn Denji into Pochita. Because remember, she, like, purposefully led them to the sushi restaurant so that they can show Denji Nayuta's head. So back then, she really didn't have any reservations about, like, Denji's well being. So from Fami's point, I don't think she's serious about like giving Denji a new heart. But Asa and Yoru are. So maybe they'll find a way to separate Denji from Pochita. Cause they have to turn him into a chainsaw at some point. But Denji is also gonna have to do something. So I don't think Denji's I don't know. I do feel like they'll find a way to separate Denji from Pochita at the end and then reunite. Like how part one, Denji did, split himself from Pochita voluntarily. But maybe in this case, not so voluntarily. So Denji's basically like a college sophomore. I don't know what the college sophomore experience is generally like. I went to college in my sophomore year. I stayed in my room and played Dota. So I assume other people's college sophomore years are more exciting than mine. But also, I think Yoru was lying about the brain fusion thing, and the last time we saw Asa, she was at her breaking point, like Yoru said, so she might snap. Yeah, that's a good point in that we see. Yeah, that's a really good point in that we see Yoru apparently takes Asa's part of liking Denji, but she's not taking Asa's trauma. She's not taking her like disgust at killing people. So that's a good point in that Yoru might be lying about only liking Denji because of Asa's brain connecting to hers. So yeah, that's a good point that Denji will probably have to choose between one of them at some point, and then not necessarily picking both of them, and that they are merging into the same character. Although I do think there are a lot of hints from recent chapters and them fusing a bit. So maybe it's the other way around where Yoru will develop more compassion for people and that she is, maybe become seriously trying to stop the apocalypse for more ethical reasons. But Yoru might be referring to Asa to make the others see that she is human because Asa is mentally isolated and non-existent. What I mean, I wonder why Yoru keep referring to Asa as her worst. She doesn't show herself anymore. She is in deep depression. Dota sounds pretty exciting to me, no cap. Yeah, I mean it's a good game, but I don't know. Like it's when you play Dota, it's like your memory just fades. Like I don't know how to describe it. It's like I'm in a trance. I'm in like I live in North America, and in North America, most people play League. So when I play Dota, I like if you play other games, you might at least make some friends. You play Dota, you play with a bunch of strangers that insults you every other game. I mean, the game is fun. The community, not so much. I wished I had like done other stuff instead of playing Dota. But speaking of which, I am now 2 years free of playing Dota, 2 years sober from Dota. So that is good. Hopefully I can keep that up for another 20 years. But yeah, let's see. I do think I discussed everything there is to from this chapter. And some more. Let's see. But yeah, that's about all I got for this week. I am working on the video I should be done with maybe this weekend. I'd say like sometime from Friday to Sunday. Um, yeah, thanks to everyone for coming in here and participating, and I will see you guys next week.